Welcome, everyone. This is the Abundant Investor Podcast, and we are Beth and Christine, your hosts. We are here to show you how you can live your rich life right now with the power of an abundance mindset and tools the wealthy have used for years that are accessible to the rest of us. Things like real estate investing and using the powerful benefits of life insurance. We're so glad you're here. Now let's dive in.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. We're Christine
And Beth.
from the Abundant Investor. And today we want to talk to you about thinking about your finances from a holistic lifestyle point of view. A lot of the reason we created the Abundant Investor is because nobody really sits down and teaches us how to manage our money, how to think about our money to align with our goals and dreams, not just now, but through our entire lifespan. There's so much to learn, and by knowing early on what are the things that are going to be coming up later in our lives, we can plan for them in a way that creates more abundance with more ease for us now and in the future. So we had this idea to take you through the decades.
Yes,
and we're
so fun.
We're going to walk you through the different decades. We've done a lot of reflecting on what did we know, what do we wish we know, and then we're talking to a lot of clients now who are in everywhere from their 30s all the way up to retirement. So we are so clear on where people are at in their later years too, and we want to help you to think about that now so that you can get your financial ducks in a row and have a lot of options later on. It's amazing, like all of the potential when you consider compound interest, which people talk about all the time, but people don't talk a lot about taxes and knowing the tax implications now versus later. And then also, I think as a coach myself, we don't take enough time to really think about our dreams and believe that they're within reach. And part of feeling like we're safe to dream big is feeling like we have the finances and that structure in place to allow ourselves to come up with any dream that we really want.
100%. We're actually calling this a new way to wealth because we don't talk about money enough. We don't talk about it when it's not included in education. So it's just socially, it's never been acceptable to talk about money. And we want to change that. We want to make it less scary, something that you talk about, that you get educated about. And it doesn't matter if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. It's never too late to learn. And so we're going to make it really easy for you to understand what we're talking about. We're going to make it really approachable, not scary, and break it down for you. So we've created a brochure that we'll have available in our link. It's called A New Way to Wealth. It will summarize some of the things that we're talking about today. And we're just excited to kick this campaign off. So for the next 5 or 6 weeks, you're going to be hearing us about this. So today we'll give you an overview. And next week, we're going to start right with the 20s and move on week to week and really drill down by decade. So
Absolutely.
Let's get started.
Yeah,
let's give you an overview of what to think.
Okay, so we're going to dive in and give you an overview, and then subsequent weeks, we are going to dive into specific decades. So what we're going to talk about today is high level, and we can't wait to drill into these details. If you're interested in a particular decade, follow us on social media because we're going to be announcing the content and announcing the topics there.
Let's just give them the decades.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
So
good.
in the 20s, we're calling that the diamond decade. In the 30s, we're calling that the diaper decade. 40s, we're calling it the daycare decade. 50s, we're calling it diploma decade. And 60s, we're calling it the discover decade. So let's drill down on each one of those.
Okay, I'm going to start with the 20s and the diamond decade. So in our 20s, we're really getting established in our careers and really our adult life. And this is where, unfortunately, a lot of times we just don't have that financial education to get started. So we start to pick up information from everywhere around us. And most of us learn that we can invest in our company's 401ks if they offer one. And that's a lot of times how we start investing. We might have learned about other vehicles from our parents and our peers as well. And now there are more and more resources online. A lot of them say the same thing. We're going to share something a little bit different with you. So stay tuned for when the deep dive on the content, because we're going to share some stuff that might knock your socks off. This decade is really, for a lot of people, they're still single. Eventually, they might find a partner. You might be combining finances with a partner if it's a decade where you start to live together or you get married. You're really thinking about your adult life and digging into saving for the first time, investing for the first time, or not. You really want to be focused on your credit and establishing good credit, especially if you want to be buying a home. That credit is so important. So we've taught and will continue to teach tips on having great credit and how you can do that even before your 20s. So we've opened credit cards for our teenagers to start establishing credit even earlier. We'll share more with you. And we really like to think of this time as one where you can establish the groundwork for a really successful and abundant financial IQ throughout your life, right? This is a really good time to establish great habits. And there are so many tools available to you from an investing perspective. You'll be able to learn about not just the ones you've always heard about, but about some other ones that we're going to share with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that will bring us to our 30s, right? So in your 30s, we're calling this diaper decades. A lot of people start their families in the 30s. And with that comes great joy, but great responsibility. And that's when most people start to think about life insurance. And I think a lot of people just think, oh, I'll just buy term insurance. Well, term insurance might work, but also it's like, if you think about term insurance is like renting insurance. Just as the name implies, there's a term to it. So you can buy it for 10, 20, 30 years, but it does expire. And actually, we're getting a lot of clients reaching out to us because maybe they bought a 30-year policy when they were 30 and now they're 60 and they still need insurance. They still have mortgages to pay and spouse to take care of and grown children that they'd like to leave some money to. So term insurance may not be the best solution. There's something called properly structured life insurance that can provide you with this vehicle that you can use over and over and over again as you save for things like college or for that second home. So in your 30s, you start to think about this stuff. And it's important to think about how you're saving money and how you're putting money away. We don't necessarily believe that you need a different account for all these goals. So for example, 529 plan is a common thing that maybe people start in their 30s. They have a child. They think, oh, I'll start a 529 plan and save for them in college. Well, let's fast forward. We'll get to this when we get to our 50s. The only thing you can use a 529 plan for is education. And so we think there may be we know that there's other vehicles available to you that you can use as a saving vehicle and borrow from to do things like pay for daycare, pay for college, pay for the dentist, orthodontist, all those things that come with having a family. So we've actually done something really neat. We have created a YouTube video that shows how a 30-year-old female could fund a properly structured life insurance policy and borrow from that policy to invest in real estate. And it's an amazing story. So that we're going to have a link in our profile here too. If you want to watch that video, it's 5 or 6 minutes. And it kind of gives you an example of how a 30-year-old female could fund so many terrific things in their lifetime for their family. So the 30s is, a really important decade for setting your family up for long-term success. And I know time is short. You have competing demands. Again, we want to make this really, really easy, comfortable to talk about, but not just this, we don't want you to just go with the status quo. Everyone, says do a 529 plan, so I'm going to do a 529 plan. Or everyone says, max out my 401k. Well, we think a 401k is a terrific vehicle up to the company match. And then after that, we'd like to have some discussion with you about your needs, goals, wishes, because we think there may be other solutions that can set you up for a much more secure and brighter future. So that takes us to the 40s.
The 40s. Yes, exactly. So yeah, I love the concept of buy versus rent, right? Mm-hmm. And thinking about with a home, I think so many of us learned that buying a home builds equity. And it's kind of similar with that whole life insurance policy that's properly structured, which I started investing in a couple of years ago. Had I invested in something like that earlier, instead of term insurance, maybe, which I did get and I still have, I might have a lot more wealth because I would have used the cash value in that to invest in real estate and be able to use that money for my kids' education and then pay myself back and recycle that. So
yeah, it's really important. I think it's worthwhile noting that that's a big part of why Christine and I started the Abundant Investor, because we didn't get introduced to these tools until we were well into some of these decades. I won't give away my age for sure, but I wish I knew about it when I was in my 20s. It would have been life-changing. And so we want to make that life-changing information available to you, make it simple to understand. And it's a big driver as to why we're motivated by that. And that's why we started the Abundant Investor. So yeah, it's important to us to share that knowledge.
Yeah. And we have kids that are growing up that are in adulthood now or like emerging into adulthood. And these are the things that we're instilling in them. So these are the lessons that we're sharing, and we want to share with as many people, especially women, as possible. We know people care about generational wealth. We know people are looking for alternative routes to the old-fashioned 9-to-5, work hard, save up. And then I think there's a lot of feeling of compromise, and we don't believe that it has to be that way. Mm-hmm. We're all for you finding things that you're interested in, investing in those, and building your wealth through multiple income streams and getting creative with the way that you use money. So there has tended to be this cookie cutter process, and we're not all the same people at all. And so I think we're learning now, and this is becoming a bit more widely known, and we're here to spread the word even more. So entering into the 40s, the daycare decade for many, some will feel that also in their 30s. And, no matter what timeline you're on, you can adapt and adjust. You might be in your 30s and be on the same timeline as someone in their 20s or their 40s or vice, any which way. And I think that it's important to know that this is very flexible. These are general guidelines. And and in your 40s, a lot of folks here are building their income. So incomes are starting to rise. You might be out of the daycare phase at some point in your 40s, and you're thinking, what can I do with this additional income or additional money that I have laying around because I'm not investing in daycare? And of course, you probably have sports and other things and music you're investing in for your children if you have children. And there are opportunities to start to invest in things like Beth said, real estate. Maybe you're into crypto. Whatever you're into investing in, there are opportunities that are maybe more fruitful at this point in time. And having a properly structured whole life insurance allows you to do things in a way has more tax advantages. So that's another reason why we love it. At this point in time, you're also thinking maybe about the kids going to college. And like Beth had just referenced, you are planning and making sure you've got a plan, because that is right around the corner and it is not inexpensive and it's a wonderful investment and a wonderful gift to be able to give your kids all or part of a college education that you pay for. And so, the other thing in this decade that we're starting to, see with a lot of people, certainly this is something that we've both experienced ourselves. And I think more people than not are looking at some kind of change in their career. They want to start their own business. They want to study something different. They want to go back to school. And so we are thinking about these as we think about the types of financial resources that you have and that you want to make available to yourself at this time.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And I think it's worthwhile noting that I hired Christine to help me through that. And, that's where we're going to be working with you and looking at your finances in a holistic, looking at you as a person first. What career changes do you want to make? And how can you afford to do that? And do you want to become an entrepreneur? Do you want to become a real estate investor? So nothing's off the table. We're going to talk to you. We're experienced with helping people make those big decisions and thinking about it in a holistic way. Because after the daycare decade becomes the diploma decade. And as Christine said, it's not cheap. It's something to think about and how you're going to pay for that. One thing I should say that is we talked about the 529 plan. Well, if you're going to be looking for any type of financial aid for college, and if you have multiple children in college at once, that's actually a really good thing, and it helps you to get some financial aid. However, your 529 plan is part of the FAFSA application. So those dollars, they know that are there, and it can almost work against you when it comes to financial aid. With a properly structured life insurance policy, whether it's whole life or IUL, that is a private account, and that is not necessarily required. It's not required to be put onto the FAFSA. So it's an asset that you can borrow from while you continue to get compound interest and pay yourself back over time and at any schedule that you like. And so that's something to really consider. And it's those, when you take money out of it, it's coming out tax-free. And again, it's a private account that doesn't go into your FAFSA, so it won't adversely affect your ability to get any type of financial aid if you qualify for that. So a really big thing. I mean, the other thing in the 50s is sadly, you have to think about is oftentimes this is when people sadly get divorced, the kids leave and they say, oh, geez, maybe we're not,
not so compatible.
Yeah, exactly. And sadly, a stat is that the average age of a widow is 58. So,
yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah, that was really surprising. And we bring this up because we read a survey that said 89% of women who are divorced wished they knew more about their finances.
89 is just too high.
Too high. And I think it's, things like death and divorce force people to get knowledgeable, and it's forcing them in a negative way. We want to share this information. So when you're 20, 30, before you have any of these kind of scary life events, you really know how to manage your finances. You're independent, you're strong. That's what we want for our daughters. So we want we want to be able to take care of ourselves financially for the rest of our lives.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. You would never hand over everything about your health to someone else. So why would you hand over all of your finances?
Yeah.
You want to be in the know. You want to be knowledgeable. It's the same with your career. You want to have a hand in what that career is. It's so important to know your finances because you just never know what's going to happen. And even if you do have a partner that is, going to be around all the time, it's empowering, and you are just going to feel so much stronger and secure and independent, which I think we all get to feel. Why wouldn't we want to have more knowledge? And I think it just flies under the radar for a while. And sometimes there's like shame that they don't know much about it later on. And then, like you said, a lot of people get like they're pinned and they're like under a rock and they have to figure this stuff out. So why not figure it out now with people that are really compassionate and understanding? There's no shame at all. We are just really pride ourselves on being approachable and good listeners and being here for you no matter what your situation is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's something that's really important because, your money mindset can affect your health. It can, how it can affect you in a positive way or a negative way is so far reaching. And we really want to make sure that your relationship with money is positive, that your mindset is one of abundance, again, the abundant investor. Yeah. And we want to be here to help you with all of it. So the 50s is the diploma decade, and then we get into the discover decade in the 60s.
Yeah, which for some people, this is really exciting because they're in retirement or they're approaching retirement, and they start to allow themselves to dream into what is next. And like Beth said, I coach people, and a lot of the job is helping people really open up to dreaming and believing that anything is possible. So this can be really fun. It can also be, there's also sometimes some resistance, going back to what you said about money mindset. If we have a money mindset that is rooted in fear, which so many of us have, part of our money mindset is rooted in some type of fear, and we get to work on that, right? So, and trust that we are safe. We've set ourselves up for success, and that you have resources and people to lean on like us to help you get through the uncertainty about it, and really just establish a positive relationship with money. You want to love money, and money will love you back. And so we are here for that as well. And
and I think a big part of this is, okay, so now you've accumulated this nest egg, okay, and that nest egg has to take you through, gosh, it could be another 40 years, 50. I mean, people, at least 100, maybe 110, with all the advances in medication, right? So, you have to live off this money for a long time. A big part of that is if you've only saved in a 401k or 403b or an IRA, yes, you got the tax break when you were young, but now you have to pay taxes on that as it comes out. And you have to start taking money out at age 72, something called the required minimum distribution. So there's a lot to how do you crack that egg without making a mess of things. So there's a lot of resources and tools and products that can help you do things like create a guaranteed for life income stream. This is where we can really help you. And if you're 60 and you think, oh no, I didn't start this in time, don't worry, we can still help you. But if you're 20 and you're thinking about this, or you're 30, it's much easier to solve the problem when you're 30 than it is when you're 60.
And not even problem, but it's solve the structure, help you structure things so that you're set up for, if you want massive success, if you want to multi-millions by the time you're 40, we can work with you to create a structure so that can do, we're not going to tell you what to do and how to make it, but we are going to help you think about taxes. We're going to help you think about, your future and retirement and protection and legacy. So those 100%. Are all things that will help you think about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the 60s, if you do this right, and even if you have it, it can be really fun. It can be time to things, we call it the Discover Decade because you can discover new places, you can live in new places, you can travel, and we want to make sure that you're set for your 70s, 80s, and 90s in a way that sets you up and that, as Christine says, creates this legacy. And that's why we're calling this a new way to wealth.
New way to wealth, yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're thinking not just about lifespan and this death benefit legacy, but we're thinking about your care. Like that's such a big topic. And when you hit your 60s, 70s, 80s, is thinking about, are my costs of care covered? Because it just keep going up.
That's right. That's right. So with a properly structured life insurance policy, there's really three main benefits. We've talked about them, but I just want to summarize them here a little bit. The first one is access to your cash value. So as you invest in your policy, your cash value grows over time. That cash value is accessible to you in a tax-free way to borrow from and pay back at your own timetable. So that's one really big benefit. The second one is something called living benefits. So living benefits are things like if you get a chronic illness. We actually even have a insurance partner that we work with that provides living benefits for fertility. And so if you're thinking about starting a family and you're having a hard time with fertility, we have one carrier that we work with that even has living benefits where you can borrow from your cash value to pay for all your fertility treatments. It's incredible. So things like, chronic illness, terminal illness. So, long-term care, if you can't take care of yourself, you can use your policy, again, whether it's a whole life or an IUL, to borrow money from and take care of yourself at any age. So you have access to your cash value. You have these, what we're calling living benefits. And then you, of course, have a death benefit. It's life insurance. So you're leaving a legacy to your family. God forbid you die young. And if you structure this right, this can grow over time so that your family can be well taken care of well beyond your time here on earth. So there's so many, those are the three big benefits. Yeah. There's even more, but it's really, really incredible. And I have to say that term insurance provides one of those three benefits and not the three. So, you think about that, you think about things like a 529 plan. Again, as I said, you can only pay for education. It doesn't have a death benefit. It doesn't have any, chronic illness benefit, so there's some downside to some of these, for sure. For some of these products that are just sort of in the mainstream. And we want to help you structure not only a policy, but structure your finances so you can get to your dreams and help you figure out what are your dreams.
Yeah,
right?
Structure your life.
Exactly.
And then leave so much room for creativity and receiving and all the abundance that is just ready to flow in.
Yes, I love it. So we're going to have available to you a YouTube video that explains how you can use life insurance to fund real estate investing. As I mentioned, it's in our link in our bio. And we're also going to make available to you our brochure called A New Way to Wealth. And both of those are up in our link in our bio. We'd love to have you sign up and get that. And then ultimately, we would love to have a personal one-on-one conversation with you. There's also a link for that in our bio. Well, we can really get to know your dreams, wishes, desires, financial strategies that you have in place now, or that you haven't set up that you wish you did. And it doesn't matter if you're in the diamond decade, if you're in the diaper decade, if you're in the daycare decade, the diploma decade, or the discover decade. We would love to have that discovery call with you and see what we can do to help you live the life that you always dreamed of.
Yeah, we'll sit down and plan with you. We can help you with policies, and also we can work with you ongoing. So we're going to be around and available for you. This is not a one-time session that we have with clients. We are building long-term, ongoing relationships with all of our clients.
Yep. We can't wait to get started. Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Abundant Investor Podcast and learned something new. We would love to hear from you. And if you did get something from this episode, please subscribe and rate this podcast so more people can find it and live their rich lives too. And remember, an abundant mindset means there's always plenty to go around, and through giving, we receive.